How we doing all, and welcome to the I'll Try That podcast, the beer review and news podcast. This week we're going to be in the hot topic. We're going to be chatting to Simmo, a resident agony aunt, and he's going to be busting some beer myths for us and clearing some stuff up. And in the pursuit of hoppiness, we're going to go to the Siren Brewing Company, and all of us have got some different Siren beers that we're going to be trying and rating and having a chat about all of that lot, really.
Right, Rich, hot on everyone's lips right now is what's happening with your latest house hunt?
Well, hot off the press, I've sent in an offer, had an offer accepted, got a solicitor, got a mortgage, and I would say, on my way to being a home owner.
Adulting to supreme.
All of a sudden, you're the most mature person in the world. So on the fact that you are the most mature person in this group chat right now, how have you found space for all your Wilco building blocks?
Bit of a tricky situation is my girlfriend has said that I'm not allowed to have any of my Wilco building blocks, bar one. I can pick one to bring with me. All the rest have got to go back into the boxes.
Oh, this is stress. I feel the stress building. The stress is building in a relationship already.
This is, that's a hard line in the sand to be drawing so early on. I mean, and I'm right in saying that she's not fully moving in with you straight away, right?
She feels it shouldn't look like a single person lives there.
I mean, if I'm honest, if I can reassure Eden in any way, shape or form, having a whole wall full of building blocks from Wilco is not what normal single people have. So I think she's actually doing a good, actually, she should encourage having a wall plastered full of them.
Would this scare any other potential suitors away? Is that the...
I think it will scare most people away, Rich. But I encourage, and as I said before on the podcast, very encourage you learning this new skill and going with it. But I think she should very rightly say that that's not normal bachelor behaviour. So actually, she should very much encourage this to be happening and having a whole wall full of Wilco building blocks. She's very safe in that way if you were able to do that. And I worry that if you have only one out, then that could be seen as maybe even art, maybe a single monument piece. That could be a talking point rather than a weird obsession with Wilco building blocks.
In fact, you should have it as you go through the door. You should just have it all out.
All of it.
Yeah, just all out, just in your face as you enter, so that everyone knows how beautifully weird you are.
Including the coffee kiosk I built last night.
Especially, that should be up at the front, because then, when people come in the door, you can offer them coffee straight away.
It's not life size.
When people come in, you need to talk to your Wilco pieces as if they're real humans, and that would really freak people out. There you go, Drabs. We're solving your problems. Perfect.
Solving them daily. All right then, Simmo. We'll move away from my maturity, and we'll go to the hot topic.
Right. Okay. So I thought we'd have a chance to talk about some myths of beer. The first one I'm going to say is the relationship between colour and strength. Now, do either of you have an idea what this myth could be?
So I feel like the myth around this is that the darker the colour, the stronger the beer is going to be. I feel like that's the myth that everyone assumes is the case.
Okay, perfect. So the myth is...
I would like to point out, I believe this, and I believe the darker it is, the stronger it is. Fact.
Okay, nice. I like this. So dark beers are strong beers is the myth. Now, Drabbo, I will relish in the fact of proving you wrong and making you sound... more of a
fake news.
Yeah, fake news and more of a Wilco's buyer than ever. Colour has nothing to do with alcohol or caloric content, which is interesting to me as well, because I thought it might have more calories. So dark beer's grains are just roasted for longer. So that is literally the only difference. That actually interests me because I never thought that the alcohol would be different, but the calories I did. So it's actually very interesting that dark beers' grains are just roasted for longer.
So you can have lower calorie dark beers than you can have some lighter beers.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is Agony Aunt Simmo coming to you, debunking myths live on the I'll Try That podcast.
Yeah.
What a guy.
What a man I am. Let's go for another. Because, whilst we're on a roll. Aging time. What myth do you think that's about, Guy?
Aging time. Maybe like whiskey, the longer it's aged, the darker it is in colour.
Interesting. That's not the myth, but okay.
or the longer it's aged, the better it will taste. Like if you were to slow cook a leg of lamb, the slower you cook it, the better it is.
Okay, so the actual myth, like they are fantastic ideas, guys, and if I was in a lesson, I'd give you a sticker and a star. But it's actually, you should age craft beers. So it's the idea that if you're doing a craft beer, you should actually age them. The fact behind this is actually that aging some high alcoholic beers can help. However, hoppy beers, like IPAs, should be consumed as fresh as possible. So if you're doing IPAs, you need them as fresh as possible to keep, obviously, that hoppiness. So I think a lot of people think that craft beers are kind of brewed for a long time. And
I think that's great. I think maybe people are trying to create there maybe that distinction of what they think of craft as being like maybe like the whiskey industry, where things take a long time and, you put it into a barrel and then it takes like, and you get a 40-year-old whiskey, and apparently that's, that's now £3,000 in comparison to the 12-year-old, which is like £30, and I think that's maybe where people are coming from. So actually, to debunk that, that's fascinating that actually craft beer is meant to be fresh. It's all about the freshness of the beer.
Thanks, Simmo.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm here to help. So now the last one I think that people are really upset about is confusing a lot of people, and it's debilitating the environment of the world, is the difference between lagers and pilsners.
Oh, I like this one because we have talked vaguely around and stepped around the difference between lager and pilsner.
They're the same.
Go on, Travis.
Yes, Drabrow, you just get some merits from me.
Well, you know what?
Done.
I was literally last night lying awake in bed, not able to sleep because of this problem.
I can feel your pain, and I think Joe feels it too.
Can you?
Yeah.
Can you? Yeah.
So the fact is, pilsners are just one of many lager types. So pilsners are supposed to be gold and refreshing, whilst lagers can actually be dark, malty, and fairly strong.
Can I tell you a phrase that I learned when I first started working with beer, and I was like, I don't understand what the difference between pilsner and lager and what the distinction is. And this phrase of a pilsner is a lager, but not all lager are pilsners.
Nice.
Do you reckon I should get that tattooed across my chest?
Definitely not.
And it would be a...
But I do think that might be a very good shout for our first I'll Try That branded t-shirt for the podcast, is a pilsner is a lager, but not all lagers are pilsners. We might have to make those, because I think I would happily wear a t-shirt that says that. Of course, it's what we're all about. It's informative about beer. I love it.
Huzzah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. That's all for this Agony Uncles session that we've got. So...
No, come on, Simmo. It was definitely an agony aunt session.
Yeah.
The floor will hear Rich speak.
I'd just like to point out, both of these Siren beers I'm drinking are 6%, and I'm drinking them at the same time.
Right, so this week's Pursuit of Hoppiness, we're going to be talking about Siren Craft Brew. And Siren Craft Brew was born in 2013. They tell the story that it was basically born out of a very simple idea, to introduce exciting, full-flavoured and forward-thinking beers to as many people as possible. So, I think we're hearing about, a company that, is born around in the mid to late early 2010s. It's not that old, but already in that period of time, they have brewed over 100 different releases of beers. So this is a prolific beer manufacturer already from a microbrewery. And, the fact that you can get them in quite a lot of different supermarkets, different places here in the UK, they are definitely trying to grow into different countries as well. That just shows you that they are, kind of interested in kind of creating new and different products. But Simmo, for me, the fact that they're called Siren, where does Siren come from?
Right, so those that don't know, sirens are from Greek mythology. And they entice mariners with their magical song. So it's this whole kind of their voices would and their link to this is their voices would entwine into a complex layered melody. And
Simmo,
then they link this. Yes.
Could you give us a kind of an idea of what those siren songs might sound like?
Yes. Do you know what? You've asked for it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it. and it's gonna be beautiful.
I think also with this one, I know it's a Greek mythology siren, but I also want this in like kind of a modern take, knowing this is a modern brewery. So maybe you could sing a Greek mythology siren song, but using a modern song.
Maybe something from Taylor Swift.
You're more of a Taylor Swift pro than I am.
I'm a big Tay-Tay fan.
Line by line, we will make the magic happen. All right? Drabble, off you go.
Okay. So is it, oh wow, there's a mermaid!
It's singing a song!
I'll probably go over there.
Okay, I'm going to interject in this. That was great. Thank you very much, but we definitely should move on. Right, so we're talking about Siren Craft Brew, obviously, from that lovely escapade just there. So I think, right, to start off with, it's a relatively newish company. Talking a bit about the design of Siren, the logo is this, it looks like some sort of hook, obviously a link back to the sea, link back to the kind of the maritime aspect of what their name is, with Siren Craft Brew written underneath. But apart from that, each one of their beer cans takes on a very different life, different personality to it. They all look very different, don't they? Like the one I have right now is their Surface Waves California Pale Ale. It's got a bit of pink in there. It's got these waves, as you can imagine, calling a Californian pale. And it's called Surface Waves. But it's very much like about the sea, but it's very kind of like light. It's kind of quite airy. Whereas Simmo, I think you've got something which looks very moody, like a very different kind of sea.
Well, mine's called Soundwave IPA, so it's got a similar name, but I've noticed on both of your cans that you've kind of got like that blocky kind of box that says Siren in it, whilst mine doesn't have that at all, and it's just kind of a picturesque, like the head of a woman with the kind of her hair flowing behind that has like almost like eagle feathers and like different kind of things, and also like a wave, like pink and black. So like it's completely abstract. It's intriguing as all hell. It's amazing. What about you, Drabs?
As you guys know, I'm currently drinking 2 Sirens at the same time, so I can try them both. So I've got some Pomacello, the Juicy Grapefruit Sour IPA, which is this vibrant pink design. Is it Andrew Pollock? Is that the artist?
Yeah, the very famous artist. Yeah.
That's the kind of vibe I've got. And then I've got this very moody, it's called the 1 through 3 IPA. So once again, another very moody design. It looks like it's got serpents coming around it as well. So it's a bit more scaly coming around. So yeah, each can is very individual and very different, which is quite nice.
I love how they're naming these different beers because, as we said, they've had over 100 different releases. But right now, listed on their website, there are 48 different beers. So that's a huge sample just to be putting out there. So some of these, I've got the Surface Waves. You've got the Sounds Waves, haven't you, Simmo? What were those 2 that you just read out there, Rich?
So I've got the Pomacello and the 1 through 3, which I'm just looking at now.
Okay, so other beers they have is a Sold My Soul for Simcoe. They have Scattered Light, The Missing Link, Nitro Cold Blooded, Midnight Mischief, Multiverse Classic, The Tickle Monster, Middle Finger Discount, Sunset to the Skies, Hard Pour, Broken Dream. So I think they have taken a fantastic approach to their naming of beers. They must be coming up with these and having a lot of fun in the naming sessions that they are having in the brewery.
Oh, 100%. I think out of all the beers we've tried on this podcast, these are some of the best names that they're throwing across. But they're consistently good names. They sound fantastic, and each one seems to entice me just reading through the list. And the Tickle Monster I love has got the big googly eyes on there as well, which I think is a great shout out to the monster aesthetic.
But the names are all good and great, but what's our thoughts on the actual flavour?
So my California Pale Ale hits the mark. It is what you're expecting from a pale ale. I mean, the fact that it's called a California one is just because of where the hops come from. They're Simcoe, they're Mosaic, they're Centennial and Chinook. So they're very American styled, from American hops. Being in California, you want something that's going to be very palatable. It's going to be quite smooth. And I feel like this Californian Pale Ale does that. This is the first one I've come across, so I've got no frame of reference to base a Californian Pale Ale against. But I would say this Surface Waves is a very palatable 5.5% Pale Ale.
So I'm trying the Pomacello, which is a greasy grapefruit sour IPA, and it is definitely sour, which is it's on the point. When I first started sipping it, I was a bit, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if this is for me. I don't know if it is just a bit too sour to be something that's nice. But after a few sips and you get into it, it is fantastic. The sourness really hits through and you can really taste it. And you can taste the grapefruit kind of like aftertaste. And once you get over like the initial sour overload that comes from it, you've got the grapefruit aftertaste. And especially that you still get the hoppiness as well, and that little IPA kick that you know and recognise as kind of like a staple for an IPA. It is absolutely delicious.
With mine, I don't know what to make of it. So the Siren Soundwave IPA, I really like it, but then it's like it feels really heavy, and there's a flavour to it that it's like, do you know when you're drinking something like, what is that flavour? It's a type of fruit that is really sharp and really unique. It's almost like, I want to say pomegranate, but I don't think it is. And it's just something that it almost kind of intrigues me, because every time I drink it, I'm like, wow, what is that? And I feel that I would struggle to have a lot of these. So it's 5.6. It's supposed to be a tropical hop heaven with a subtle bitterness. And it is drying my mouth out a little bit, but it's so unique. Like, I don't think I've had something like this before. And it is really unique. And I think people have to give it a go. But I can't like pin down where that fruity flavour is coming from, which I find really intriguing.
So I think like kind of the overall with Siren that we've been experiencing and seeing is that obviously they have a wide variety of different products and beers. I mean, even just between the three of us, you know, I think we're trying like 4 different beers actually, just between the three of us. So, you know, you're never going to be lost for choice when it comes to Siren. Whether or not you can find them very readily available, I mean, we just, a cross-section of just the three of us trying to find them in supermarkets. You know, I got one beer, Rich got 2 different types of beers in his supermarkets, and Simmo got your own beers. So you got your own one. So I just don't think they're going to have that consistency across, like, you can always get the same staple beer from Siren in the majority of places. But that's kind of a nice, intriguing point, that you can always find slightly different beers. You know, you might find a new release. If you get to your local pub and they're always stocking Siren, it might be a different version if you come in the next month.
Joe, one thing I just want to talk about. Do you know, you talked about how the S was like a hook. Like, on that actual story, they say the famous Siren S even has a subtle barb at the end. Now you're hooked. So it literally fits in perfectly with what you were talking about. I love it.
Well, that's a marketer's dream, having something that links back so you can have a nice, catchy, like, sign-off. Oh, you're hooked. It's got a hook on it. Wait.
So I was just going to say that I'm drinking the 1 through 3 that I only just noticed just before we started recording. This one is collabed with Salt, which we did recently on another one of our podcasts. And it was just, I just read the description that they're combining both of their best IPAs together, which is quite nice. So it's 2 new up and coming breweries that are kind of getting themselves out there and kind of making a name for themselves. And they've created something quite nice between the both of them.
Now, Rich, you did have, and you could not strongly have reviewed in a more positive light, the Salt Napa that you had.
Oh, the
New
Tram
England
Napa,
Pale Ale
yeah.
version. Yeah. How does this compare? Is this their IPA that they've taken, or have they done the DDH IPA that Simmo was trying and really liked as well from Salt?
No, so this is the IPA that they've supposedly combined both of the... So if I read the description, a collaboration between Siren Craft Brew and Salt Beer Factory and North Brewing. This beer takes the best of each of our flagship IPAs to create something unique, yet with elements of each recipe taking... turns out fourth and expect punchy aromas, mango, passion fruit and peach with citrus and pine notes, leading to a tropical finish. Which I will give them. They've done something quite well, which is really nice.
I think it's worth mentioning, because we haven't talked about it. They're actually from Berkshire, and I find it intriguing with their whole design, which is very maritime. That they are landlocked area.
Yeah, no, that isn't. It's not like an Adnams ghost ship, it's on the coast itself, or it's like coming from from Cornwall, and it's very much like Doombar. It's from a sea-related kind of pastime. That is interesting, actually. The fact that they're from a landlocked area of Berkshire, and that they're calling themselves a maritime linked. But then actually that's really interesting because it's not about a location, it's more about a way of being and what they want to kind of say about their beers itself. So they're giving themselves that kind of backstory. Was about the efficacy of the product rather than about the location.
It's like promoting
itself.
the mythos rather than the actual where they are. Yeah, it's good. I mean, there's.
So I think going back, we know that they're doing a lot of different kind of beers. They've got collabs with other up-and-coming breweries. But there's one that I've just seen on their Twitter, on their Instagram, which is really fascinating. They're calling it a lockdown special, which is a double-barreled beer. So it's been barreled as well. So kind of taking that kind of, we have seen, whiskey infused or kind of whiskey barreled beers in the past. That's not a very new concept, but the fact that there's a very newish company that's been around only about 8 years that's trying to do something new with their beers. And even if these are limited batch, they're, a small batch, whatever they might call it, limited release. I like that. They're trying to do different things, or at least they're experimenting. I love that idea that a brewer, that even if they are kind of getting into a bit more mainstream, especially here in the UK, you kind of find them in the big supermarkets, that there's still a big arm of them that's doing a bit of R&D. They're trying around with different formulas. They're almost back into the alchemist, the kitchen, as it were. Let's just try and make something that's a bit interesting. And I do get that sense with Siren, that they are trying something different. And even though they have the beers that people like...
Right, give us the numbers, Joey.
Right, so on Instagram, they have 53,000 followers, and on Twitter, they have 31,000 followers.
That's pretty impressive.
So all in all, I would say, I'm intrigued by Siren. This is a newish company to me. This is the first Siren beer I've had, but I've heard about the name for a while, but I had no idea about the backstory. They're from a landlocked part of the country, but then and I had no idea they had just such a variety of different beers. So if I see a beer from Siren, majority of the case it will be something that I haven't had before, I will definitely make a beeline, because I think across the board we're saying that these are interesting and tasty beers.
Yeah, definitely. I would say give them a go and just experiment. If you find one you like, but try some of the others, because there are some fantastic flavours coming through and definitely some interesting designs.
I think it's actually a company where I'd say that's rather than having a session on just one of their beers, you'd probably want to buy a whole selection and just kind of investigate. Definitely. I think it's there's a lot of companies where I've gone, do you know what? Stick to their main staple, or stick to this one, and you have 3 or 4 and you enjoy yourself. This one, buy 8, and try loads of different ones.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised actually that they don't do more of a job of different mixed cases, and I mean they have mixed cases, of course they do. I mean, like any craft brewer that has a wider range portfolio, they do it, but that would be what I'd be leading with. If I'm a Siren, they're a newish company. If I'm a Siren patron and I love Siren, I'm always going to buy from Siren. I'd want to be trying out the new releases. I'd want to be trying out the new products. I'd want to be trying out everything, because they just, it's going to be a good standard beer. And I think that their mixed cases right now are a bit. I mean, it's just standard. It's that they've got their flagship Sirens, like the ones that the top 4 beers that are sold, which is great, but it's also but throw in there a wild card Siren. You have loads of great beers there. Throw in some wild cards, intrigue people, give them a limited release. Give them something that they're not quite doing. And I think that's just, for me, opportunity for Siren is you already have these great beers, but you need to explore them and be known as the company that has a wide plethora of random and different beers that aren't always going to be available. And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe,
Rich,
and Simmo,
goodbye. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now. Always drink responsibly, and if you or anyone else needs some help, go to drinkaware.co.uk for more information.